Hey everybody, welcome back to my training channel. Today we are going to cover something on HTML. It seems very basic, but it is important to understand the basic difference of where to use it and how to use it. Two more popular layout frameworks for your HTML is the CSS Grid and the Flexbox. So this training session will make you understand the basic difference between the CSS Grid and Flexbox, when to use Grid and when to use Flexbox, the core differences between two of them, and example layout of both, and how to mix these two things to work out with the entire layout. So let's dive into the coding and learn the exact difference and get deep detail of Grid and Flexbox using CSS in HTML. So first and foremost, what are the conceptual differences between Flexbox and Grid? For Flexbox, the main purpose is Flexbox, one-dimensional layout, row or column. Grid, it is two-dimensional layout, rows and columns. So basically, if you want to align it into one dimension, either vertical or horizontal, you can use Flexbox. But if you want two-way settings, then that is rows and columns, use Grid. Axis control for both of them. In Flexbox, it works on a single axis, either Y, either X. Grid works on both, that is X and Y. Content versus the layout. Flexbox, content first. Item will grow or shrink to fit. Grid, it calls layout first. So it defines the structure and items fills inside it. So what happens in Flexbox is, in Flexbox, what we do is, that is content is first. So item will grow according to the fit. Whereas in Grid, the layout is fixed. It will set the structure and the items fill inside it. What and where it is best for. Flexbox, you can use it in navbars, buttons, cards, rows. Grid, you can entirely do in your page layouts, dashboards and gallery. So these are the conceptual difference of Flexbox and Grid. So let's write an example and understand how it works. So we do the grid first. So we give the name as grid.html. We give the style inline over here. Dot grid dash container. And that you have to specify the property display, attribute display of your CSS, and we give it as grid over here. Grid template columns. So how many columns you need? So I just give it as repeat 3,1 fr. Now this fr is, that is 3 columns, and 1 fr is 1 fraction. 1 fraction of the entire layout it will take for that particular column. Second is grid template rows. So how many rows we needed? So in that we give 2 rows, 100 pixel and 100 pixel. So this will create 2 rows. Then we give the property as gap, that is gap between the columns and boxes which will be created. So that is 10 pixel. Then we give one more property of background color. So you can see it, background color, and inside we specify any specific color which is visible. So I give brown over here, so that will be more visible. So this is the first custom class, that is dot grid container. Next we create the class for box. So inside box I give the background color. I give the background color property and I say hash, or you select the color. I select the color as aqua. So color is selected. Thereafter I give the color property which is visible inside it. So I give the color property in aqua. You can see visible white or dark color. So I specify black. Font size I specify 10 pixel or 12 pixel. Display property you have to specify as flex. Next is align items. So we align the items in center. Next is justify content. So that will justify the content in between. So that is justify content center. So this is done over here. So two custom classes we created. We created a grid container. We created a box. In grid container we give as display grid. We specified how many columns, that is repeat 3 and 1 FR. So one fraction will be taken off the entire layout for that one column. Grid template rows, that is 100 pixel 100 pixel, that will create 2 rows. Gap, so that is 10 pixel and background color. The box which will be created inside that grid, we give the background color, color property, font. Display we give it flex to the box, not the grid container. Align item center and justify content center. Now we create the divs, that is elements, and we give it that dot grid dash container. I just type the class name and press enter, so that class will be taken. Thereafter I specify that dot box, so it will create a div with the box. I type 1 over here. I want 6 boxes, so I just paste it 5 more times, and again I specify 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So this is an example of a simple grid, a grid container we created. We try to run that code. So that code is inside my HTML1, and this is it. So you can see this is the grid layout which is created using your grid. Now just we learn what exactly it is doing inside it. In grid display, grid allows both rows and columns, that I already said, rows and columns, that is done over here. Grid template columns define the column structure. Grid template rows define the rows height, ideal for page layout, galleries and dashboard. So this is your simple grid. Now we create a file for Flexbox. So for that we create a name file and we give the name as Flexbox .html. Over here also we specify the inline style. So we specify the style tag. We have to create the custom classes over here. So as we did grid container, we give as flex container, and inside that first property, as we did in grid, display property should be flex. Justify content I specify as space around, so I want space around that content, so I give it as space around. Second property is align items. Again I specify center, so that will align the items inside it. I specify the height as 200 pixel, and we specify a background color same as this. I specify it as brown over here. So that is done. Thereafter I create dot box as we created there, same in your grid. In that we specify the background color. I specify the same color over here. I specify the color property. I did black, so I gave black over here also. I specify padding, so padding will be 30 pixel supposedly. Then the next property which we deal is font size. So font size we keep 12 pixel, that is same. So again two classes over here. Again the same thing, dot flex container, and it creates the class. Thereafter I specify dot box, and inside box I type again 1. I specify 4 boxes over here, 2, 3 and 4. So let's try to run this code also. It will be in the same file. You can see this is your Flexbox. Now Flexbox is looking similar, but over here you can see grid, that is 2 rows and 2 columns, and over here there is an entire flex container, and inside that we created the boxes. We specified the space around property, and we specified the height to be 200 pixel, align the items 300 pixel, padding between this is 30 pixel. So this is your flex container and this is your grid. It seems similar, but the working is different. This is used for rows and columns. This is used for either vertical, either horizontal. You can align the items inside it. Now we take an example of using both of them. Your Flexbox display flex arranges boxes in rows and default. It takes rows by default. Justifying content manages horizontal alignments between the component, that is the items. Align items manages vertical alignment, perfect for navbars, buttons, simple list and cards. So this is the major difference which we show. Now we see the scenario how it is used. That is, first and foremost, this when to use Flexbox and when to use grid. Navigation bar, you use Flexbox, not grid. Next, product card row, use Flexbox, not grid. Complex web layouts, you can use grid, not Flexbox. So the entire layout has to be created in grid, and you can do Flexbox inside the grid. Image galleries, you don't use Flexbox, you use grid, because in galleries you want particular rows and columns perfectly, so we can use grid over there. Centering one item, use Flexbox, not grid. If you just have a single item, that is a card of the entire login box or something, then you use the layout as Flexbox, don't use grid over here. So that is where to use that particular thing. Now we try to create a layout using both of them, that is grid and Flexbox. So I give the name as combine.html. I give the HTML tag. I create the style as we did in that. So that is style over here. Inside style, we have to create something more over here. I have to do the entire page. So as we saw and discussed, that is page, we create a class, and inside that I give the display as grid. So my entire layout will be in grid. So that is grid. Next is grid template column. So I specify grid template columns. Inside that I give as 200 pixel and 1 fr, that is 1 fraction. Next thing is grid template rows. So for that I specify auto 1 fr, that is 1 fraction, and auto. So auto will automatically take the content with 1 fraction of the entire portion, and again auto. So that will be 3 rows exactly. Gap, I specify over here as 10 pixel. So that is a 10 pixel gap. Next thing is height. So I give height in 100 view height. It will take VH, means the entire viewport. Viewport is defined over here. Viewport is right now or entire screen. So it will take 100 VH, viewport height. Next we define two class, header and footer. Header comma I give footer, because I need both of them of same size, so I specify it over here as header comma footer, so it will apply on this. Now I give as grid column over here. Inside that grid column I specify 1/3, so that is 1/3. Background I specify over here is background color. In background color I take a darker background. I give the color as white, so I specify color and I specify ice blue or white, anything will work. So that is done. Display property I specify as flex over here, because I am specifying only header and footer, not the entire grid. Align items, I align the items as center, and I specify justify content, so that is justify content, again I specify center. So this is for the header and footer, 1/3 of the grid column. So it will take the 1/3, that is entire 3 columns. Next thing is we specify the navbar. So I specify the nav without specifying dot, because I will be using the nav tag of the HTML5 tag. I give the background as you specify a color, that is hash I give 2ECC and I specify 71. So that is your 2ECC and 71. So that will be the color. I specify one class for main. I will be using the main box over here. So that is background I specify. In background I give the background as hash EC F0 and F1. So that will be the color. make it lighter to ECC and this. So this is your main and this is your nav. We just specified the background over here. In main we have to give display as flex. So the main portion will be flex. Then we specify align items over here, that is again I specify center, and justify content also I specify center. So we created 3 custom classes. One is the entire page layout, that is grid. I give the column as 200 pixel and 1 fraction, so 2 columns. That is rows is auto, 1 FR and auto, so there will be 3 rows, 1 for header, 1 for footer and 1 for middle. Gap I specify 10 pixel and the height of that page is 100 VH, that is viewport height, so it will be fully when I say 100. Header and footer you specify grid column, that is 1/3, 1/3, and then background color, display property flex, and align item center. In navbar I specify the background, I specify a main class that will be for the main content, the content area. Background and display I give flex over here. So you can see we have used the combination of flex and grid. The grid is only specified for the entire page layout. Other 2 places or the boxes which I use inside, the content boxes, we gave it as flex over here. Now let's put it inside your HTML. So first we take the class as header. I type it header over here. Next we specify display, that is your navbar. So I specify nav. Inside that I say navigation bar, or we can specify it as sidebar because it will come in the side. So we specify sidebar over here. Next we specify the main section, so we give the tag as main, and that is your content goes here. I can just specify P over here. And that is the content box which we created. Thereafter I want a footer, so we go over here and type the tag as footer. This is footer. So this is the entire layout I specified. We have specified header and footer class over here, so it is same. So this will be same height, this will be same height and same width and same number of columns. Nav that we have specified over here, the background color. We created this main section, so this nav will go in one portion and main will go in one portion. When we try to observe the layout, it will be something like this. So you can observe that we created the entire layout. You can check it out that we specified header over here. So for that what we did is we specified the header and footer, that is 1/3 column. Background color is this, color white, flex, center, and this. So this creates your top, header and footer. The entire layout is divided into your 2 columns, that is your grid. So that is grid template columns, 200 pixel and 1 FR. So 200 pixel is this sidebar and 1 FR is your entire fraction. So this is your fraction of your entire layout. So 1 fraction. So there are 2 columns, and in your template rows this is where auto, 1 FR and auto. So that is auto, 1 FR and auto. So that is 3 columns. 3 rows, and gap you specify 10 pixel, so there is 10 pixel gap inside each and every rows and columns. So this is your combination of grid and Flexbox. So understand the basic thing is we can use grid for your entire layout, that defines your main structure. Flexbox handles alignment inside the grid item, so we can give the inside content as flex. The entire layout you can create it in grid. Key portions what we learned in this is Flexbox, 1-dimensional layout, rows or columns. Grid we use it with 2-dimensional, that is layout, rows and columns entire row. Flexbox aligns the inside containers. So inside containers are this. The inside containers we can use your Flexbox. Grid organizes the page structure. So entire page structure, how many rows, how many columns, has to be done inside your grid. So that is done inside your grid. Professional tips again. Flex for what we want is we want to center the elements, navbars and cards. Grid for entire layouts, dashboard structure, galleries, you can use it. Combining both flex and this inside your responsive design. So hope this entire tutorial is useful. These are two simple things. It seems to be simple, that is grid and flexbox, but in deep we have to take the understanding that where we can use the grid and flexbox. So this is it. Keep coding and keep learning. For more tutorials and updates, please join our channel, like and subscribe the channel so you will get the notification for your tutorials, and keep learning. Thank you.